So let's start planning our Inkscape and start manipulating Inkscape to start drawing our splines. Here we go. So this is the course that I'm working on, and you should have your imagery now, and you should have your satellite a layer inside of Inkscape with a Google and Bing image. I like my Google image a little bit better. The Bing one has quite a few shadows on it. I'll keep it in there in case I need it, but I'm going to primarily use the Google imagery. So this course, let me give you some background. I know this course pretty well. We're going to spline, and I would highly recommend that you spline one, maybe two holes, and we're going to go through the entire process on two holes. So let's start. Let me tell you where these holes are at. Let me just zoom in a little bit here. And let me just zoom out a tad. So obviously this is the parking lot here for the course. Here's the clubhouse. Hole one is here. So this is the green for hole one. There's a little bit of water here. There's a fairway here, rough all the way around, some trees, and then there's a tee box here, and there's some deeper tee boxes right here. So hole one, yeah, pretty straightforward. I think I'm going to put all these in one layer called hole one. So let me create that. So let me come up here, hit this plus, and I'm going to add it above because I definitely want this above my satellite imagery. So hit add. And see it did, it said called it satellite imagery one. We do not want that. I'm going to double click. Very important. I'm going to call this hole 01. That is extremely important. Any layer you have in here that's going to be processed through Blender, you must call it hole 01, hole 02, hole 03, hole 17, hole 18. It must be hole and then 2 digits, okay? So hole 1, we're going to start there. So let me just think about it. So I got hole 1 is here. That's going to encompass the shapes for my tee boxes, this body of water, this body of water, this fairway. I'll have a rough throughout here as well, and I'll have some semi-rough, but everything's going to be under this hole 1. Excuse me. Now over here is hole 2. Tee boxes for hole 2, and these are tiered. This kind of goes down. There's a large drop here. So I got a tee box here, a tee box here. I've got a cart path that winds down, and I got a fairly decent large body of water here that kind of goes underneath the cart path. And then I've got a green here, and I've got a little bit of a fairway. But there's a pretty big gap. There's some deep rough in here, some rocks in this area that really divides these tee boxes from this green. I think it makes more sense logically that if I include these shapes for these tee boxes with hole 1, okay? But I will create a hole 2 that will consist of this little bit of fairway and this water for hole 2. So I'm going to create a new layer, and I'm going to make it underneath hole 1, okay? I'm going to say below current. Now, that really doesn't matter because remember, holes cannot overlap. So these different layers, I can't have everything on hole 1, any shapes that overlap with hole 2. Now I am going to rename this to hole, remember, 02, very important. So now I have my containers and I got a general idea of my strategy for hole 1 and for hole 2. So look at your course and see how you want to divide up your first 2 holes. Does it make sense they go under one layer called hole 1? Or should they be completely divided, hole 1 and hole 2? Or are you going to blend some of these shapes between hole 1 and hole 2? So go ahead and do that and create your layers.